Hi, and welcome to Rosemary's World of Cannabis. Hey, if you read the storyline or if you read the title for today, you already know what time it is. A soldier story, more than one just side. For more than just one side. Hey, thank you 710 Radio. Thank you iHeartRadio for letting me do what I do Monday through Friday from 12 Eastern Standard Time to 1 o'clock. And for those that are military minded, 1300 hours. We'll be right back, and then we're going to get into the subject of today's show.
Are you the shadow of yourself? Is your mood on its way down? You could be suffering from low THC, also known as cannabinoid deficiency, caused by 77 years of government interference via prohibition. Do you live in a medical cannabis state or the District of Columbia? Are you over the age of 18 and seeking non-toxic natural health, well-being, and peace of mind? Ask your doctor if cannabis may be right for you. After 10,000 years of recorded human use and 77 years of failed prohibition on the world's most extensively tested plant, the results are in. Cannabis has no known lethal dose and is arguably the safest and most comprehensive therapeutic substance known to man. Cannabis remained in the United States pharmacopoeia until 1941, and cannabinoids are currently patented by the federal government as an anti-inflammatory. U.S. Patent 6630507. Human brains have cannabinoid receptors. Cannabinoids are lubricants in the human body. Due to prohibition, our bodies have been denied essential lubrication. Imagine never changing or adding to the oil in your car. The use of cannabis for low THC may cause immediate relief, including a general feeling of well-being, chronic smiling or laughing, feelings of euphoria, increased creativity or clarity, a greater appreciation for music and art, the desire to dance, increased feelings of inspiration, compassion or unity, a need for truth and justice, or you may wake feeling more well-rested than usual. It's undetermined to know exactly how many symptoms the use of cannabis may alleviate because of federal prohibition. There were dozens identified in the 1909 Eli Lilly Pharmaceutical Handbook. Currently, over 80% of the population supports the right to use cannabis therapeutically, and 92% of its users have declared significant non-toxic relief. The most common side effects, which are usually mild to moderate and may fade or disappear completely over time, are dry mouth and drowsiness. Other more serious side effects can include growing and repairing brain cells and DNA, or improve vision, may prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, glaucoma, nausea, and suicide, may provide relief from autism, asthma, anorexia, arthritis, AIDS, cancer, Crohn's, depression, epilepsy, fibromyalgia, gout, IBS, insomnia, MS, migraine, pain, Parkinson's, PTSD, and spasticity. Use caution while driving or doing other physical activities until you know how cannabis affects you. May cause paranoia or nervousness, specifically caused by real-life government intervention in your quest for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the USA. Ask your doctor if cannabis may be right for you. Brought to you as a public service announcement by the People's Plant, a campaign of conscience.
And welcome back. Wow, y'all gonna enjoy today's show. I brought back with me Carlos. I don't know if you got a chance to hear Carlos. Carlos is out in Washington State, and we had such a great conversation. I had to bring him back on the air because this young man really has it going on. Hey, Carlos, how you doing?
Hey, how are you? Hey, listeners out there, I want to thank you for having me back on the show. I absolutely love this show. I love your mind and what you do for the community. And again, thanks for having me back.
Oh, well, thank you for coming back with us, Carlos. I mean, today we're going to be talking a little bit different. This is a show, I know we did some military shows in the past, but this one is going to get a little bit more in depth than most shows I've heard from cannabis side perspective. We're going to be talking about actual situations and everyday life for some of us that's either duals or, you know, because you have some families that both of the spouses have been in the Army. You have some that only one spouse has been in the Army. Predominantly male in perspective. So we're going to be talking about all that and then some other things in how the military treats people far as when they Uniform Military Code of Justice as far as discharge and everything. I found out some information that I like to share today with you as well on how some of those processes are done, and all of them are not according to the books, if you want to ask my opinion about it, but I don't want to get too far into the subject today. I want me and Carlos to have this conversation. Carlos, as we talked about off air briefly, we're not going to go into everything because we need about 3 more shows, but as I shared with most of my listeners that I am a dual, which I mean that I have served in the armed forces. I served on active duty and reservists, and also a spouse of a retired service member. And doing what I do is not easy in that perspective when you have an old retired first sergeant that you're dealing with. And I think you can, and then on top of him being an old retired first sergeant, he was a drill sergeant for 3 years. So dealing with that mindset alone, Carlos, you can jump in at any time seeing what I dealt with.
You know, I think with the first sergeant, 22 years, if you were able to get that man to look at cannabis in a positive perspective, you have truly parted the seas. That's a true accomplishment.
Well, it takes dedication to, like we were dedicated to the armed forces. It takes dedication to this plant to teach and educate. You have to, just like when we went through basic training in AIT, we did things in repetition. I had to use the same perspective and principles in teaching him about the cannabis plant in perspective, in the same way and structure that I would be teaching him in a class in a military format. So what I did is broke down what I learned about cannabis, put it in a military perspective, and broke it down in that format. That was not easy to do.
No, that's again, you're sitting there fighting too, 22 years of him being told that if you even look at this plant, you're going to lose everything you've created for yourself within this establishment. So, that fear alone, it just, even from the knowledge, from the, the scientific aspect of what it's done with other people, just being able to take that fear out of it. That came from a place of love, and you being his spouse and doing that for him. You saved his life. I feel you have, because for me, for my PTSD and for some other guys that I've seen, like we chatted about before, PTSD doesn't always hit the soldier right away. Most of the time, what happens is the soldier is out for a lengthy period of time. They disconnect from soldiers they've been in the service with for a while. They lose that sense of, I'm a part of this organization that's doing something, and that's when they start outletting and doing these really, really horrific sources of just trying to cope, So I definitely think that, you teaching him that and just being persistent, I hope there are other spouses listening right now that'll maybe take, ear of your advice, and again, how you did it, by implementing, the military and that lifestyle and kind of associating both. I hope they take that and they try it too, because again, it could really be 10 years out of their spouses out of service, when they're at that breaking point, they could be like, oh man, I remember that one time, or even, she's constantly every now and then talking about this as an option because maybe I am, losing my temper when I shouldn't be. Maybe she's noticing that, I'm binge drinking more than I shouldn't have. I think people think to be like, a person that abuses a substance, you have to do it 24/7, 365. That's not true. I know a lot of guys who have major drinking issues because from Friday to Sunday, they drank in such an unhealthy way. You know what I mean? That's alcoholism too. That's being an alcoholic as well. And when you take pills when you're not supposed to have them, despite, that's addictive behavior, So I just think with, you doing that for him and being that example, that's truly awesome. And what made you want to do that?
Well, like I said, seeing and hearing the different stories from, going back to when I was on active duty, think about just what I seen in that perspective, and then being with him as a first sergeant's wife, the phone calls, the whole 9 yards, dealing with, at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, if we had 3 to 4 day leave, or this, especially if these guys had downtime, they just came back from a deployment or something and they get X amount of days down, the first thing they think about, and I'm hoping if you have young children, you might want to have them to leave the room, because we definitely finna get into some explicit details about a soldier's life. The first thing, I hate to be blunt, but they're thinking about getting with some female or some male that they hadn't seen, for those who are unmarried, or the ones that are married thinking about getting with their spouse and getting down with the program, and then the next thing they think about is getting that drink.
I'm going to say for potentially certain MOSs, that's different, because I know for me and my friends, the very first thing that we thought about was that bottle.
Wow, that's deep.
I'll never forget those mornings. We'd be coming back super early from the field. We'd get in at like 1, we get done turning in weapons to the arms room by at least 3 or 4. Everything's been counted by then, and we're getting off. And we'd look at the clock and we'd be like, man, the PX doesn't start selling booze until about 4. We have 30 minutes. What are we going to do? Well, the PX is about 30 minutes away. Why don't we just walk there? All right, we'd walk there.
Wow.
The time, and then we have one of our buddies come drive and pick us up. I mean, it was just the most. It didn't make sense. It was just. It was addictive behavior. You know what I mean? And then the second thing was absolutely getting, obviously, having sex. And that's another thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. That is a really huge coping mechanism for soldiers. A lot of soldiers have, unfortunately, just because of, the separation from the opposite sex, huge porno addiction.
Yes.
In reality, most people don't want to talk about in service. And these porno addictions, granted, to my personal perspective on it, if that person is of age, they signed a contract, it's all healthy, and they want to do that, that's their body. If that's what they want to do as entertainment, let them. I mean, I am not. This is America. This is
exactly. But we do know that is a huge problem.
But the problem is this, though. Guys are taking that, and they're going, and women, and people are taking that, and they're away from people for such a long time, engulfed in this. They're seeing that as what it should be in a relationship.
Right.
Okay? And then they're taking that and they're implementing it when they're either really drunk on somebody they don't really know. They're getting, it's just wrong because that's not normal. That's the scene. People have to listen at it for a while. People don't get that, or they come back and they become super monogamous and just start fucking everything, and they think that's what it's supposed to be. And they start ruining relationships. It's like that's a problem our service members are going through, on top of the alcohol addiction.
Exactly. And on top of that, during the first Desert Storm, deaths from soldiers coming back with that mentality right there on Fort Hood, Texas. I mean, every other day you were hearing about a service member killing a spouse in a drunken rage.
That's something that, and a lot of that stuff, if you look at the killings, if you look at, what induced that action, if you look at the beginning of it, 95% of the time you're going to find a bottle.
Exactly.
Because the bottle in the civilian world is like the soldier's M4 in combat. To most. And most don't want to admit that and cannot admit that. Most say, I only drink through gatherings when I'm hanging out with the unit. But if they're hanging out with the unit Friday, Sunday, Saturday, Wednesday, check this out. So there's points to where there were FRG meetings I went to that were about the school, the PTA. It wasn't the FRG meetings. Let me rewind. I did a Watch Dogs program recently. This was recent, over a year and a half ago on JBLS.
Mm-hmm.
And the Watch Dogs program was assigned with the PTA. Okay? The PTA were having their meetings. These moms were having their meetings, not at the school, the PTA meetings. They were having their PTA meetings at one of the mom's houses so they could drink wine. Holy gosh. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
what?
This is a PTA meeting. That alcohol just mentality within the service, it's not just within the soldier, it spews off into spouses and vice versa.
That is so true.
It's an epidemic that really needs to change because, when you are so used to using that as a coping mechanism and when you're using that as a coping mechanism and your spouse is, and you guys are, helping each other, you have the fallback of the service. You don't have that when you get out.
That is so true.
When you do a dumbass decision, Mullen, you're a dumbass, pat on the back. There's Mullen doing this 45 and 45. CPT, man, No, when you do that dumbass decision, you have a jail cell, you have attorney fees, you don't have people you can call and come in and joke with, and you don't have a field or range you can go to and shoot, and everything goes away because that's what your unit tells you. You have the reality of your piss poor decision making and your addiction. And your spouse has the reality of now having to step up because you have lost your job. Or it's like, and then now you guys are going through marital issues that, weren't really that hard to deal with when you were in the service, because the Army was, when you made the nice thing about the Army, not until up to like maybe 2013, 14, and started getting guys out for DUIs. But man, there were guys getting DUIs in the Army and still being able to serve. You just maybe get a little Gomar, you know what I mean? But and it's like, when a soldier is at the point where he's getting more than one DUI, and just because, he's a certain rank, or just because maybe he's a valuable asset because he's had that much training, or you put that much money into him, that guy needs help. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I've seen that so many times in personal situations whilst my husband was on active duty, that not in their unit, but other units would, and these persons, we would know these people personally. They come down on the blotter report for having a DUI, and politely, because they're such a quote-unquote outstanding individual, it mysteriously disappears. But if somebody comes up hot on the UA, they're gone.
Man, like, it's unreal, and it's in that good old boy system, and it's the protective mind state.
Oh, that's another show. We ain't gonna even touch on that. That's a whole nother show we'll talk about on another day.
In war, looking out for each other is essential, yes. In a combat, I'm not saying that stuff again, because I don't want people, again, when we sign that dotted line and soldiers make that commitment, we are understanding we're stepping into a different element. But the problem is, when we are in that element as a unit, we need to give a damn about the people that are willing to make that sacrifice and be a part of that circle. And I feel too much of, it's been going this way for so long, this is how it operates, this is normal, sweep this under the rug. It's like, we are now having an epidemic where, guys are blowing their heads off, hanging themselves, and it's coming from three things. It's coming from, this terrible stigma of, either I'm too strong to get help or it's weak to get help. I think also it's coming from the stigma of the orange bottle is the solution, meaning these prescription pills. Most of those have more, I'll tell you this, most of the prescription pills that were given to me from Walter Reed, the VA, and the service either had the side effect of me killing myself, which I was supposed to be getting the medication for, or have some crazy, stupid stuff like bleeding out of your eyes. Like, why the hell would I digest something for my stomach? It might potentially make my liver weak. It's unreal. Or they cope with boozing, which is, those are the things that I feel need to really change within our service. And that can change with allowing cannabis as an intro at the outro. Does that make sense?
That makes huge sense, and I'm totally 110% with you, because I don't know if you know what lithium is. Do you?
Lithium?
Yes.
Let's put in a battery, lithium?
No, I'm talking about the medication lithium.
Oh, no.
Okay, that drug there, let me go ahead and give you a perfect example why I do what I do. They had me on lithium at one point, and that was the worst medication, because it kept you on levels. You was either high, or low, and when you hit low, it was ridiculous. On top of that, you would also have to get your blood drawn sometimes twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month. It just, they want to always keep checking the levels in your body. And that was ridiculous in itself. And I went through that for like 2.5 years till I decided I'd had enough. And it wasn't, the sad thing about it, it didn't work because I was being misdiagnosed. Sure, I had some of the symptoms that they diagnosed me with, but also I was suffering with post-traumatic stress disorder. I was suffering with other things that combined. Depression comes from, being in a post-traumatic state, constantly not being able to deal with it, because the point is you don't know who to talk to. Then you have your overeating disorder that I went through, that, you eat when you're stressed. People don't talk about that. Cannabis stopped me from a lot of very destructive things, and like I said, doing that and doing what I did most then on active duty and what I'm doing, kept me all right. But when I was a spouse, doing the FRG thing was rewarding in itself, because I gave them soldiers a peace of mind. They knew that if anything came up, hey, the FRG group leader got us, and by me having to work side by side with my husband, was the best thing. Because some cases I worked with the also had to work with the NCO, the officers that did not have a spouse and did not have nobody to step up. So I had to step up and fill the role of that officer's wife's position in some cases, which is extremely stressful.
No, it's weird, but it's real, because I saw that happen to some of my lieutenants, because I came from an infantry brigade, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And, there were some young LTs there that did not have the stuff, and I was seeing, another colonel's, wife just kind of take him under the wing and be like, just kind of and nurture him, and it was so effective, because I don't think we would have had that care from somebody who understood that it was an outside element that was a part of a bigger family, with the family readiness group. If he didn't have that, I don't think we would have been able to give the nurture back to our unit the way he did at times. When it was time for him to be nurturing, he chose to be nurturing. When he could have chosen time to be cold and callous. And I think it came from having that the F1, the 50th readiness group, and people from that group coming in and just when everybody had their house and stuff, you know what I mean? This lady would have for, the LTs that didn't have people, and, the NCOs and stuff, she would have stuff for those guys. That was cool for them, because they would laugh about it, and, it would be stuff, our first sergeant would share with, oh yeah, he's into this team, and it was really amazing, just the little effort that FRG put in, even for guys like me, they would come out and they would bring us Whoppers, okay? At the field, our Lieutenant Colonel's wife would come and bring us Whoppers out, to the field. They were $1 Whoppers. She spent, I think, $150 out of their own money for each platoon, each unit. I mean, it was a real,
mm-hmm.
The FRG brought so much hope to people. And I think it's one of the unfortunately, it's one of the least looked at organizations within the military that, they're afforded so much. You know that from what you did. Yeah,
but you know what? By me talking about it now, because a lot of spouses, when their husband retires, they retire. But a fact that I got to bring up, I don't know if you know this fact or not, but for soldiers that do retire out the military, they have, most of them wind up passing away by their 7th year or having a major heart attack after retirement.
Wow, what?
That is no joke. Google it.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
okay.
And I know this is true, because one of my former NCOs, whilst I was on active duty, Master Sergeant Slayton passed away exactly 120 days. His paperwork probably hadn't even got to his home in Georgia before he passed away. I've known several soldiers personally that have had heart attacks after retirement, to include my own husband. After we did the count, it'd be 7 years after they retire. And me and you both know the reason why, but I'm finna tell our listeners. When you have a person from the age of 17 years of age up to maybe 41 or 42 years of age retire, and they're used to getting up at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning each day, running 2 miles or 3 miles, constant stress. And as the rank goes up, the stress goes up. And when you reach that plateau as high as you can go, you're constantly getting beat up from all angles. And then the politics plays into the game. When the politics get to the point that you can't do it no more, you got a decision to make, and a lot of them retire. But dealing with a thing that's not talked about, even though we're taught to be an army as one, or if you're in the Navy, Air Force, Marines, you don't see the color of that person's skin, you see that color of that uniform, and also you don't see gender. That's how it's supposed to be. But in reality, we have those complexes where some people don't want to leave stuff back at the house. As far as the good old boy network. And dealing with the FRG like I did, I had to face doing that because somebody else's spouse felt that they should have been in charge. And by me being the person that I am, you know, I let them know plainly, look, first and foremost, I don't get paid for this. Second of all, let me ask you this, and I'm going to be honest with you, Sergeant so-and-so. Have your wife ever laced up a pair of boots that ain't her, that's not yours? He said, what do you mean? I said, I've laced up and been in those boots. I said, I've been in the reserves and active duty. So you tell me who's more fit for this position. Your wife because she thinks she can do better, or me that has been on both sides of the fence? And I'll wait for your answer.
And that's what I think right there is the question we need to, as soldiers that have experienced that, need to be going in, and maybe in South Carolina, in states like Florida, and collectively as a group, I think we need to have people who are willing to come out from several areas, and we need to stand for these legislators and these congressmen and ask that question for ours. You know what I mean? Like, it's unreal that we are not allowed to have these options. It's unreal that, you know, the soldier is not allowed for his last 30 days out. That last, you know, when we have those classes, you know, that were given, why can't a 20-minute video be shown that says, hey, did you know when you get out, you don't have to choose booze. You don't have to choose the pill. You could choose cannabis. We can't do that because it's not federally legal. That's the problem.
That's it.
You know, that's it. But I think, again, it's
if it was some way I could find it in somebody to invest in that program, that would make me happy as heck, and I would be happy to run it. Because the point of it is this: every military installation in the United States and overseas need a 2-hour class. Mandatory. Make sure they sign up on that packet before they retire. Or if they're PCSing or ETSing. They need that. Because, you gave one of the best platform answers ever on that, because I couldn't have put it in better words. Because I've seen so many young soldiers after they get out of the service and get in so much trouble. I mean, promising minds gone because they don't have that safety net anymore, which they was used to being on active duty. And you're so right about that.
And it's not that cannabis is that safety net. It's that, you know, when you overconsume on alcohol, you black out. You black out. When you overconsume on, and it can kill you also, when you overconsume on prescription pills. The amount of cannabis I have consumed in my life at one point, I have never blacked out. I have never OD'd. I have never done anything. I have done, I almost lost my career because I got into a fist fight, drunk at a bar, active duty, okay? Just wasted. You know, I was going through some major, because after I got injured, got back from Walter Reed, you know, and I almost lost my career. You know, I know for a fact if I was sitting there smoking cannabis, I would have not. That Carlos, when you consume so much alcohol, for me, it changed me to a different person, and that is never, and I've never seen that happen with other people with cannabis. It's like, you know, granted, now consumption of cannabis can sometimes have, and I'm not saying, and I don't want to put this out there because there are people listening that may have never tried it. I mean, there are different forms and ways to consume cannabis. So what might work for me might not work for you. It might be psychologically, it might affect somebody different. So, but just for me, all the ways that I've consumed, you know, whether it's I ate it, drank it, smoked it, you know, those are the main, you know, I've never had an experience like I've had on cannabis. I mean, like I've had on alcohol, or like I've had on prescription pills.
Yeah, I totally can agree with you on that. I mean, I did events. Like I said, 2014 was an amazing year for me because I got to see cannabis from more than one perspective. And when I was out in Colorado doing the different things I was doing, I went to shows where they had the all cannabis show where everything was calm and peaceful. Then we went to go to a show that served alcohol. Oh man, let's say it like this here. Each time I went to one of those events, I got out of there before everything kicked off. But however, I mean, honestly and truly, as of now, I would never do an event that has alcohol and cannabis combined. I won't do it because the fact is this: alcohol, I guess you could say, is a true serve or Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde formula, I guess you could say, because people will fall back on alcohol as a crutch. Talking about if I didn't do it, if I wasn't drinking. No, that's your subconscious mind telling you that you're gonna do it anyway, and that just gives you that what the old folks used to call liquid courage.
That's true. Like, and I that's why I also don't go to events that tend to mix the same. You know what I mean? I think for veterans and for people that are in, the reality of them getting that class right now, the last 30 days isn't realistic just because they're not federally legal. So it's doing what we are doing. I wish that we could, again, I wish like there was a way to reach out and like go on major installations and be like, hey, is there a way you can offer this photos if they want that option, but we just can't. So, I mean, the real fight has to come with, is there a way we can fight for the federally legal for maybe soldiers? I don't know, sounding kind of just throwing things out there completely out there, but what is the real solution? Because until it's federally legal, can we really do anything for the soldier? Because that's the jurisdiction they fall under.
Well, see, that the problem comes in the logistics right there, because you got to think about it. You do have states that is, that they can get cannabis, even though in some states they get it and they're taking risks of using it and come up on a UA and their retirement can be affected.
What do you mean? My understanding, there's no state, no active duty member can go and use cannabis.
No, not active duty. No, we're talking about retired. No, not one. Not one. Let me correct that. Not one on active duty. No. I wish that could happen.
Because that's where it starts. That's where it has to start. Reaching guys.
But I'm going to be honest with you. Can we be honest for a second?
Yeah.
With the current people that we have in the administration right here with number 45, that's not going to happen. Because his little monkey, I mean, I hate to put it like this, his little minions that he got there, one of them has major investment into privatized prisons, Mr. Sessions. So with Mr. Sessions being in charge of everything he's in charge of right now, that's why I said that I don't care if Jared came and talked to him, Abanka and everybody else, we still got to deal with Sessions until we can get some legislators up there to have, to actually grow up here and get us an accurate bill passed where it come off of Schedule 1. It's got to come off of Schedule 1 for any of that to happen. Until it come off of that, until we get the mindset of them dinosaurs that's sitting up there. And I do say dinosaurs for a reason, because they're in the 1973 area of Nixon in the mindset. And I ain't got to call no names. Each state know who their representative is. I personally call mine out, Lindsey Graham. Yeah, Lindsey Graham. I mean, he talks out the side of his neck. He is a retired officer, reservist officer, and he turns his back on us.
So wait a minute. That's out of South Carolina. And he's a retired reservist officer, and he is not fighting for cannabis.
He's fighting for it, but not in the way that he should be.
Oh, I need to come out there and talk to him. I would love to engage in a conversation.
I would love for you to talk to him too, because I'm gonna be honest with you. The man, I mean, we gonna have to work something out logistically when we're not on the air, so we can go ahead and get that worked out. Because I want I would love to have at least a room full of retired, active duty. That's something we're gonna have to make happen. That we have retired. Yeah, we're gonna have to make that happen. I don't know how.
Even the listeners, I encourage. Well, I don't know how to make it happen. We do it kind of up here with that 22 too many Olympia. Honestly, we started out with collectively hanging out at one location, as veterans that like to consume cannabis together, because, you know, we have bars that we can go to within the VA, not the VA, with oh my gosh, the Legion, the American Legion.
Yep, and you know the American Legion backs us. You know that, right?
Oh yeah, now they do. Yeah. They didn't. They recently just did. You know, but they don't back us to the point where I can go in there and consume cannabis.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, are they really backing me, or are they just, you know, you can say something, but until the action, until I can walk into an Allegiant, sit down, spark my vape pen, my bong, my split, my joint, and consume cannabis without somebody coming over and telling me to get out, or even have a designated area that maybe the people that want to necessarily have to smoke around them, which I respect, you know, until they have something like that, then I'm going to say they aren't really for me now. Because, I mean, I can't drink alcohol. I can't. Because the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like you had said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think it has a lot to do with also, you know, the alcohol consumption and just what it does to your body. You know, it takes guys back to, it lowers our heightened sense of, not anxiety, but it brings guys down and, you know, soldiers down to a lower sense of awareness. And as soldiers, that's one thing we love to have, is we love to be aware. We're trained, situational awareness is key. So one thing that this does to everyone is, no matter who you are, you may feel after your first 3 beers, you're buzzing, you're good, but once you start consuming like most soldiers do, you no longer at that 3 beers buzz, and you are now at the lower sense of awareness, and then that brings out vulnerability. And when you're at a place where you don't know what you're doing, and that those vulnerabilities and those demons comes out, it's unreal what people do.
That is so true. I've seen it time and time again. I've seen really alcohol make people, the quietest person in the room, the loudest. I mean, just stuff come out to people that you just be like, really? I never thought that person would be like that. So yeah, I agree. But I mean, we done talked about so many aspects of this. I never got a chance to ask you, Carlos, are you married now?
I have a fiance. Her name's Christina. She is amazing. She's law enforcement. She is not a cannabis user herself. You know, she actually doesn't really prefer it. But, you know, she sees that it works for me.
Wow, that is interesting.
She experienced the alcoholic. She met the alcoholic.
Oh, wow.
She helped. Oh, yeah, it was real. So, you know, I mean, her alone, I mean, she's been a part of saving my life. Just, you know, just her love and the passion and just her understanding. But, you know, again, just to be in her position and understand that.
That speaks volumes.
It's real. It's real because, you know, for me, it's if she can do it, then why can't anybody else do it? Especially with what she does and how she, you know, it's like she understands, you know, that it helps. She's seen it. She's seen it change me, you know, and she's always like, oh man, you know, there's people. She's corrections, and she's like, man, it's a shame. She's like, I hate seeing people that are locked up for cannabis.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm glad you brought that into the realm. With what I do here, I go out here in the city of Rock Hill a lot, and I talk to a lot of people. And during the last festival we had a festival called the Come See Me Festival here in Rock Hill a couple of weeks ago. So I was, we had a special election here, and I was asked to participate in an event there. And whilst I was there, I was standing there and leaving the parade. I was giving out these cards for minorities for medical marijuana, and the police officer looked at the card. He said, you know, I can't take this card, but he said, I took a look at it and I remember it, and I'm going to check your site out. And that alone made my day. And then maybe about 25 to 30 feet, I came into another officer. He looked at the card. He said, you know what? He said, off the record, I support what you do.
They all do.
I mean,
because they're tired.
And this guy gave me a 15-minute lecture on why he supported it. And it goes into what you say, they're tired. They're saying that people that they arrest for cannabis use don't fight with them. don't give them a whole bunch of problems. They're even, if they're busted in their car, they're even friendly enough to tell them where to find it at.
That's real. And again, it's a situation where we are putting this plant in a position where it's being used as a pawn to put people away, and that's something that I'm not making up. That's something that has been told, that has been disseminated to the public. If you just go online and research, you can hear it from the horse's mouth, and these aren't things that are pretend. These are our real life, everyday reality. And until we, as Americans, look at that in the words, and if you follow the words that were said to the actions that have been followed, and see the destruction of homes, the destroyed homes, especially in our minority homes. I mean, if you see the prison populations and who they are packed with, and the words that were said completely match up to the actions that have been followed. And this drug war won't get stopped until people like you keep doing what you do, and people stand up. And I'm telling you, the crappy part about it won't work unless we have numbers.
Exactly, and that's why I do what I do, because I want to talk to you out in Washington State. I want to talk to the people in Washington, D.C. I want to talk to the people out in Oregon. I want to talk to the people in Utah. I want to talk to the people in Colorado. I want to talk to the people in Pennsylvania. I want to talk to the people in New York. I want to talk to the people all over the United States, because until we join forces and say we have had enough of this shit, it's going to continue. And it's sad but true. I've been doing this now on the air going into my 4th year. And I could go back to shows. I could go back to Facebook quotes that sound the same that I did 4 years ago. So when are we going to get off this merry-go-round? People are saying, just say no, we're going to do what we need to do.
We're doing it, though. That's the thing. You know what I mean? And it's like in any war, not everything is done, right away. Things take time to prep. I just hope that people that are listening get the courage to understand that, it's okay to take that fight that you did overseas, or that you were willing, if you did deploy, that you could. I mean, everybody was willing to go to war. Whether, you went to war or you didn't, you knew when you were joining up, you were potentially, like 9/11, nobody knew at the time that was going to happen. So, whatever that is that you have in you, if you're a cannabis user helping you, or if you believe in it and you're a soldier, a veteran, have the courage to stand up and say that. That fight that you had then, we're in the same position now in regards to, we need people to stand up and share their testimonies, or even just share. And you might not even have to have experience. You might be able to be a free thinker, think outside of the box, not use cannabis at all. I have a lot of friends like this. My fiance is one of these people. See that it helps other people and want to take the moral standpoint and say, you know what? You're looking at this, everybody that's saying no to cannabis from a money standpoint. Everybody that's saying nay to this is looking at it from a saving life standpoint. The people that don't use cannabis need to take a side. And, I mean, you're not getting paid when you're picking the people that are trying to shut cannabis down. They're getting paid. What you're doing is hurting a lot of people, not intentionally, because there's been a lot of really crappy programs out there to brainwash people. But it's 2017. We have Google. We have TV. We have so many outlets. I mean, social media has changed the world to where people can go live now. You can get information that, years ago that was given in newspapers that you had to believe, now completely shown different. There's no excuse why that middleman is choosing somebody on the left, meaning like the negative side, whether it be the side of the pharmaceutical companies, the cotton industry, all these guys. So the people on the right side, that are trying to get, cannabis, our side, the veterans, the activists, the dispensaries that are doing it the right way, these medical people, and shows like you, there's no reason why that middleman is still thinking that cannabis is bad. There's no excuse. That's just negligent. And it's unfortunate, but, it takes what you're doing. And I love the show. And I really thank you for having me back on here.
Well, thank you so very much for everything that you do out there as well. And like we said, we're going to get together and we're going to get this thing done where we can get everybody together. If we have to, go coast to coast march on Washington with veterans that's like-minded, that look like us and talk like us and walk like us. And I mean, we got to do it. I mean, I want all the veterans, if you have a dog in this fight, which you got a battle buddy, you got a friend or relative that don't look like you, that are in the armed forces, retired or active duty, you're fighting for everybody when you do that. When you finally take a stand and say, I've had enough, I think we can get this done. I know some groups that in D.C. that would be happy to join with us. I mean, all I got to do is ask. I know some groups that be in Colorado that be happy to join with us if I ask. I'm quite sure all of us can get together with different groups and organizations and make this happen, because I'm finna kick off an initiative June 1st that I'm gonna make people aware of as well. I know the military pays the NFL a lot of money that we do to different programs and organizations, which in turn they should be paying the military in return. But the NFL is one of the biggest non-profit organizations in the world, and Roger Goodell ignores the fact that cannabis is a medicine. So what I'm asking my listeners to do, and I'm going to make a Facebook page because I got a day, 2 days to get it done, is I'm challenging everybody, if you go to your opening day games, not to wear your team color. Make your shirt up in green with your team on it. I don't care, put the player's name on it. I don't care, as long as the shirt is green. We want to send a global message to Mr. Goodell. I'm going to change my Facebook page with a green shirt on with Panthers across it, because that's the team I support. And we're sending a strong message to everybody that we have had enough. I am tired of athletes not getting the help that they need. By me just going through knee surgery 2 months ago, I found out firsthand how well cannabis works in my life. I came off the opioids after being in the hospital for 3 days, and that was the worst withdrawal of my life. I rather had a hangover compared to what the opioid hangover does to you. And I have before and after pictures that I got to share one of the after pictures sometime this week of what cannabis has done in my life in 2 months, as far as helping me heal with such a major surgery. And I like I said, I know how these athletes feel, because these guys get crushed up, brushed up, bruised, bangs, concussions, the whole 9 yards. And they're not allowed to use this as a treatment, which I think is dead ass wrong, considering how much you charge us to come see them. But they can't use cannabis, and most of these teams NFL teams are in cannabis-friendly states, and these team members cannot go to get relief. If they do, they're kicked off the teams.
And that again is or they lose sponsorship. This is another horrible. Some of these players get most of their money from sponsorship. So that's another huge angle that it's like it's terrible that they have to experience that.
Yeah, we're gonna leave that for another show, but I'm gonna leave this for a thought for you. The two fastest people in the world, Usain Bolt and Michael Phelps, both of them use cannabis. Our former president, Barack Hussein Obama, used cannabis. I use cannabis. You use cannabis. And
Marvin Washington does. Have you heard of him?
Who?
Marvin Washington, the ex-NFL player.
Yes.
He's a huge advocate right now in the cannabis industry.
Ricky Williams used cannabis. There's a few others that's on my Twitter page, and I'm gonna see if I can get these guys to give me a little bit of their time and talk, come on the air and talk with me about cannabis, because especially that's why I'm kicking off this thing Facebook wide, and I'm hoping it'll get big. But that is my goal for this year. It really literally ticked me off that Roger Goodell would have such, excuse the expression, balls to feel that he can tell these athletes. It's like You making money off these people's backs. It's like legalized slavery in the NFL to me. You do what we tell you to do. And that's not right. They should have another option on what to use for their bodies for pain.
Just like soldiers, I agree with you. You send a man to war, you give him all these, it's like, and then he comes back and you don't let him, actually have something that might relieve him, give him how are we so messed up right now? And it's within the black and white, it's within the laws, and you're right, it takes people collectively getting together, going to legislation, getting people to want to, actively, go to, and it starts small too. Even just knowing what district you're in, you can go to your, monthly or your annual meeting for whatever, county or whatever, how it's broken down, for whatever area you live in. Like, these are small kinds of things that people need to start doing collectively as groups every Tuesday. There's certain council meetings that I had in Oklahoma. There's groups that are, going out there collectively representing cannabis, have maybe a cannabis on their shirt, but just go out. But some people don't do that. Some people aren't that out open with it, which is perfect, But I think it's positive to be also out there open with it. Like, I know a guy that has a really cool cannabis tie. It's because, listen, we have been in this drug war victims of subliminal, we've been hit subliminally, okay? So, subtle breaking the stigma of people that normally don't see a cannabis plant, seeing one in a positive setting is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all. You're not going out there showboating that you like cannabis. When we were kids, and we saw that big old cannabis leaf, put that X through it, that was subliminally thrown with advertising, we probably didn't know. Do you know what I mean? So, even just going to these council meetings and showing that presence of people within the community that are for cannabis, even in states that are against cannabis, I wouldn't recommend going to states that are, still illegal, growing cannabis plant, using cannabis and medicating. I would go there with the, hey, we deal with these, with this evidence that is positive for our state. But if you want to go there, and do that and consume and smoke for your right, man, like, get the permit to do it. In Washington, we do that. We asked, hey, are we allowed to get a permit to go walk to the Capitol and sit there and talk about cannabis use? We want to stand in front of our Capitol and talk about cannabis use, and we do that. Now, do we medicate going up there? No, we can't. Do we medicate at the park afterwards? Yeah, but Washington can allow that. It's stuff like that I feel that states that are just coming out need to really
excuse me.
Need to be shown. Need to be shown that there are people in the community who want it, and a lot of people are still scared. A lot of people still go behind stores, so they have to walk around so people don't see their cars to buy cannabis in some of these major cannabis stores that I work at. I'm in them so much, I notice, certain people, and I'm like, wow, that's still parking over there at the Safeway just to come over here. Why? But,
it's the stigma. It's the stigma that's around the plant, and that's the reason why I love doing what I do. You mentioned on a previous show about you being a Christian. I'm going to share a story with you because we're about to wrap it up for this session. Believe me, we will have you back again. Matter of fact, I might have to make you my co-host because you're just that good.
You rock.
No, you rock. But let me tell you this story. Some of my listeners know about this. I came out the cannabis closet in the church. And for you to come out the closet in the church, talking about cannabis in general, in a southern state, in the church, it takes a lot of guts. With that in mind, I just recently returned back to that church. And now, time has passed since I came out, and so much information, I didn't stop what I was doing. I kept going. Now I have been accepted back in that church with open arms.
You're probably going to help so many people eventually, because again, I think people have, oh God, I love that. So I want to hear more about that.
We're going to definitely, I had shared that on a previous show, but I'll be glad to talk with you about it off air, because I know I have a lot of listeners that do listen every day, and they're like, she talked about that before. But I came out in the church because I was doing some legislative work for a speech that I was doing in Columbia, and I was so stressed that everybody how you go to church and you ask people to pray for you. So that's why I asked for prayer for understanding and peace, so I could go ahead and finish writing my speech for the committee. And that's supposed to be a place where you're supposed to be able to go and ask prayers. So
and again, it's taking a step to breaking the stigma, and that's important. I know that some people may not relate because they may not be religious, but for those that are, and a lot of the world is, most religions, cannabis is frowned upon, and even and it's in a lot of their texts. I think people definitely misinterpret it wrong, but long story.
Yeah, it's in the book of Genesis.
The fact that you broke out of your element and did it in a place most of the time it's not talked about at all or looked down upon. It's about breaking that stigma. And again, I encourage anybody and everyone to just stop being scared and break the stigma, because
exactly
we have been victims of that for so long on the opposite spectrum.
Yeah, but let me go ahead and let you know how big of a deal it was for me. I sound like you've been in the church. I don't know what denomination, I won't ask, but I'm an usher and been an usher for years with that church, and also on the mass choir.
Yeah, you grew up I'm my sharing. I grew up Roman Catholic.
Wow. I'm Amy Zime, so you can we both understand.
So it was. It was again. So with just being where I am as an adult, I just encourage other adults that grew up like us, or maybe grew up different. You grew up like we did, or you grew up with your parents understanding that cannabis was a plant that could do so much.
Exactly.
One or the other. That's really truly the reality.
Exactly.
Kind of in between, or you grew up in between where you were hiding it, which that was growing up like us.
Mm-hmm.
So either you grew up like us, or you grew up with stuff, and more people in America grew up like us. That's most of America since the 1940s grew up like us.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They didn't have an option not to, because if they tried to go up the other way and were open about it, well, we know where those guys are.
Exactly. So we got to go ahead and wrap it up for this session. We will definitely have you back again, because I know you got a whole boatload of knowledge that you can't wait to share with everybody. Could you like to tell me how to contact information to reach up and reach any programs that you're with?
Sure, I'll love to shout out a few programs. Permission to Start Dreaming, PTSD, out of Gig Harbor, Washington. I encourage everybody to check them out. Creator's Liz Main. She's a Gold Star mom. Her son was a victim of PTSD, killed himself. She does some amazing stuff. She's got an outreach program that she is trying to bring to Washington. Basically, it's a resort that veterans can go to that need intensive PTSD care with their family members, and they can go through some holistic healing. Another program I want people to maybe check out is 22 Too Many out of Olympia. Those guys are, a really cool organization that if you are a veteran in your area, you can even start your own chapter there. They're more of just kind of what I was speaking on before, kind of like the American Legion, but we are not alcohol related. We are cannabis related. I love the American Legion. I'm so thankful for what they do, but I do like to be around brothers and sisters that also like to consume cannabis and not alcohol, because alcohol takes me to dark places. That's personal. And I would like to shout out Men and Women Above Ground. Marvin Washington, who I share with that, he's got a really cool organization with somebody by the name of Bonita Money out of LA. I like what they're about inclusiveness within the cannabis industry, which I'll share with more of you about. And a big shout out to you, and a big shout out to your husband, who did 22 years for this nation. I only got to do 7. Giving 22 years out to this nation, I mean, that's something I wish I could have done.
Well, for the record, I hate to correct you because you've been good so far, but I got to make a correction, because if I didn't and he heard this show, he would hang me. He did total 26.
Oh my gosh, and I'm thankful. See, I apologize, First Sergeant. Thank you for doing 26 years. That again is just one of those situations where it's that's unreal. That's amazing, and that's a service I don't think most people will really be able to grasp and fathom unless they've been in a pair of boots. And
okay.
So thank you, and that's what I want to shout out. So thank you for having me on.
On that note, we gonna end this show like this here, guys. I always say freedom is not free, and we're not free until we're all free. You know that. So think about it the next time that you hear a veteran and you say, "Hey, we support you." Are you really supporting that veteran? Are you really supporting the use of cannabis? Have you thought about supporting the use of cannabis? Just think about the soldier story that you heard today, and you heard it from more than one side. Thank you, 710 Radio. Thank you, iHeartRadio, for letting me be free to do what I do every day. Once again, guys, freedom is not free until we're all free. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time. 710 Radio, iHeartRadio. This is Miss Green Jeans. Oh, excuse me, was Miss Green Jeans. Oh, wow, it's been a long day. Still Miss Green Jeans, but I'm doing Rosemary's World of Cannabis. I am out of here.